Well, good morning, everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. It's a real pleasure to be at this year's summit and to have an opportunity to speak to so many delegates from our very vibrant payment sector. Bonjour à tous. Je suis vraiment ravie d'être ici avec vous aujourd'hui, de pouvoir participer et de pouvoir adresser un si grand nombre de délégués qui consistent en ce secteur de l'industrie du paiement. I have to say that last evening, my colleague and I arrived yesterday for meetings, and last evening, as I was made myself into my hotel room, I tossed and I turned and I tossed and I turned. And it had little to do with this conference, by the way, and it had everything to do with Game 7 that our beloved Senators are playing in Pittsburgh this evening. So I thought I might just direct towards them some positive energy and say, go Sens go. Over the last 25 years, innovations in payment technologies have transformed the way we conduct financial transactions. That Canadians have been so receptive to this reflects a widespread desire for better products and services, as well as an expectation of the industry's ability to deliver. The Financial Consumer Agency of Canada plays a lead role in financial consumer protection in this country. On the basis of this alone, I am sure you will recognize the important commonalities among all of us. After all, the interests of consumers and merchants are at the heart of what drives our work, whether we are regulators, industry, or others comprising the sector. Of course, the modernization of the payment sector is not exclusive to Canada. While speaking at an event very similar to this one last fall, my US counterpart, Richard Cordray of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, that said this: "The possibilities opened up by powerful technologies and novel approaches are enabling new services and transforming how payments and lending are conducted. So we want to understand how we can influence and channel this wave in positive directions. And I believe our goals are the same: to put consumers first and improve their lives," end of quote. The FCAC Act sets out our two distinct but complementary programs to protect Canadian financial consumers. The first is supervision. We're responsible for the administration and the application of this country's federal financial consumer protection framework. And we do this by ensuring institutions comply with consumer provisions under the various federal statutes. And these provisions focus on obligations of regulated entities to disclose key information to consumers and to provide them with access to basic banking and complaints handling systems. We also supervise compliance with a number of industry codes and public commitments. Payment card network operators are, of course, familiar with one of them, which is the Code of Conduct of the credit and debit card industry. It's a mouthful to say, and that's why we call it the Credit Code. The Credit Code requires payment card network operators and other network participants to provide merchants with information, as well as with the flexibility and choice when accepting card payments from their customers. The other very important component of our mandate is financial education. And I thought, rather than describe our program at length, I would encourage you to take a look at our website and find some of the tools and some of the resources that are available, in particular, our budget calculator tool and our credit card and account selector tools. I was actually in both this weekend, assisting my son in getting his first credit card and opening his own bank checking account. And this is a good way to acquaint yourself with the approach that we have to helping Canadians build their financial knowledge and navigate their way through the world of financial products and technology. And I thought it might be interesting at this point to get a glimpse of one of the many ways we reach out to consumers with information and guidance. This is a short video that we produced on using credit cards at ATMs, and it features a character named Floyd.
Sorry, cash only.
But all I brought is my credit card.
Well, that's okay. You can use it to get some cash. There's an ATM over there.
What's wrong? Well, I took a cash advance on my credit card the other day, and I've been charged interest on it, even though I paid my bill in full on time.
Our credit card agreement says interest starts immediately on cash advances.
Understanding your financial rights and responsibilities means no surprises. Find out more at canada.ca/it-pays-to-know.
Désolé, comptant seulement.
Mais je n'ai que ma carte de crédit.
Pas de problème, vous pouvez l'utiliser pour faire un retrait au guichet automatique là-bas.
Qu'est-ce qui t'arrive?
Bien, j'ai pris une avance de fonds sur ma carte de crédit l'autre jour et j'ai encouru les intérêts, même si j'ai payé la facture au complet et à temps.
Notre contrat de carte de crédit dit que les intérêts sur avance de fonds commencent dès que l'on retire l'argent.
Pour éviter les mauvaises surprises, apprenez à connaître vos responsabilités et vos droits financiers. Renseignez-vous à canada.ca/c'est formé, c'est payant.
And you can find the rest of the remainder of the Floyd videos on our website, itpaystoknow.gc.ca. At the core of financial education is a national strategy for financial literacy. This strategy sets out the goals and the priorities to help Canadians better manage their finances and make decisions as their needs and circumstances change over time. It calls on stakeholders to join efforts to make financial literacy a lifelong journey for all of us, being discerning about financial options, seeking information and acting on the basis of facts, preventing fraud and financial abuse. Those are the outcomes our financial education program seeks to achieve. So to summarize, we're all about consumer protection and financial education. They're the broad components of what we do at the FCAC day in and day out. En résumé, les grands volets du mandat de la CFC consistent en la protection des consommateurs financiers et en leur éducation financière. Earlier, I referred to the ongoing transformation of our payment system. Statistics illustrate just how significant it is. According to numbers released by the Canadian Bankers Association in February of this year, nearly 3/4 of Canadians do most of their banking using online and mobile services. As I said to a gathering of consumer advocacy groups in March, the financial marketplace is constantly evolving and we must evolve with it. FCAC's challenge is to achieve a balance between carrying out its supervisory role and not standing in the way of innovation. Though these realities are replete with newness and change, there are nonetheless some things that we can predict. For instance, I think it's safe to say that those of you involved in the development of business technology will continue to expand the range of products and services you offer and hopefully continue to drive down cost and increase competition along the way. Because there's no denying that online and mobile technologies offer one particular feature that I know we all appreciate, and that is convenience. But as appealing as convenience can be to consumers and merchants, it is important to remind ourselves that innovation often gives rise to new risks. Consider the scenario of a consumer using a smartphone to make a payment and then something goes wrong. Where does the consumer turn to resolve the issue? The payment card network, the bank, the company that designed the payment application? The customer needs to know and needs to be clear on where to go to have the issue resolved, and if that doesn't work, how to file a complaint. This is absolutely fundamental to any financial consumer protection framework. An important point to understand is that the scope of FCAC's oversight and enforcement powers is defined in the legislation according to the type of organization rather than by the function an organization performs. In other words, you are regulated because of who you are, as opposed to what you do. To illustrate, while we don't regulate gift cards from Apple, for example, we do regulate all of the prepaid cards issued by federal financial institutions. And while some of you may find yourselves outside the purview of our authority, I nonetheless encourage all of you to insist on having standards as high as those overseen by the FCAC to demonstrate commitment to the protection of consumers and merchants. The bottom line is that being consumer-centric is good for business. In the cities, towns, and communities where we live, there are those rare gems. I'm referring to those independent community businesses with a long-standing, loyal client base. Not necessarily because they have more or better selection than their competitors, but because they have their customers' best interest at heart and insist on giving them the best possible experience. So if I had any advice for you today, it would be to keep this best interest top of mind when you are developing new products and services. Adopt a risk-based, proactive approach to consumer and merchant issues, and turn to the FCAC for guidance when you require it. Remember, trust influences every consumer and merchant decision and action. Now, there are plenty of competitors entering the financial services marketplace, and that is certainly not likely to change anytime soon. Just last month, PricewaterhouseCoopers released a report on how financial services around the world are innovating in response to fintech. Based on the perspectives of 1,300 financial services and fintech executives from 71 countries, the report titled Global Fintech shows that 30% of consumers plan to increase the use of non-traditional financial service providers in the not-too-distant future. Interestingly, at the same time, almost 40% plan to continue to use only traditional financial services providers. And what about those traditional financial services providers? Well, they're increasingly partnering with fintechs to keep up with market demands, which makes a lot of sense when you think about it because they both bring different strengths to the table. Banks have an established customer base, reputation, capital, and regulatory knowledge. Fintechs have a high tolerance for risk, are typically agile, and some might argue are more in tune with what consumers want. Like you, regulators are only as effective as we are prepared to adapt to these emerging challenges and opportunities. Working with the International Financial Consumer Protection Organization, FinConet, which I chair, we are able to extend our research efforts. Released last fall, FinConet's report, Online and Mobile Payments, examines the challenges to mitigating risks associated with the innovative payment services market. Fraud, deceptive practices, and the lack of reliability of devices and infrastructures are among the important threats to consumer protection that we were able to identify. Out of our shared findings and experiences, we proposed an approach and examples of multidisciplinary collaborative actions to strengthen our supervisory capacity in this evolving field. The consultations we conduct at the FCAC also enable us to keep up with the changes in the sector. Let me give you an example. To make sure topics and contents of our educational materials resonate with target audiences, we turn to stakeholders such as consumer groups for ideas and feedback. The value of working with stakeholders for the FCAC to support our common objectives cannot be overstated. Because in addition to acquiring valuable information and insights, we strengthen collaboration. Through research, we are also enabled to stay current and positioned to adapt to developments in the sector that we oversee. We use information we uncover about emerging trends and issues to develop strategies and activities that empower consumers. We also draw on our findings to inform policy discussions with our colleagues at the Department of Finance and with other regulatory authorities. And we have also increased dialogue with organizations such as yours. In fact, during the last year, some of the world's major software and technology development companies have turned to us for advice and guidance on how to integrate elements of the credit code into their plans. It is incumbent upon each of us to work together if we want to lead in this payment space. So let's be forthcoming, let's be proactive and transparent, and assemble on common ground. There's a quote from Henry Ford that I particularly like because it applies to many situations, and it goes like this. Coming together is a beginning. Keeping together is progress. Working together is success. I consider it a privilege to represent the Financial Consumer Agency of Canada, our country's leader in consumer protection for financial services and products. Every day, I'm inspired and mobilized by the agency's mandate to protect Canadians. I encourage all of you to be mindful of the people and of the organizations that may ultimately determine your destiny as to whether or not you will be successful in the marketplace. It is the right thing to do in every way. After all, we are all consumers. We know intimately the mix of experiences and beliefs behind our product and service choices. There's a great deal to be gained from acknowledging this and pursuing our objectives accordingly. Alors, merci de votre présence, merci de votre attention et à la prochaine. Thank you very much for being here today, and thank you for your attention, and go Sens go. Thank you very much.